And the topic I want to look at today is the topic of the dummy reversal. And if you've just come across this video by chance, or if you're not a very experienced player, this is, I should warn you, a slightly advanced topic, and it doesn't come about very often, but it is an opportunity to make more tricks than you can if you don't use it. So it's not a really key topic, let's say. So let's, but it is very useful when it comes up. So let's have a look at a few hands to start with, and we'll start with this one where your partner opened one heart, you responded one spade, and your partner now bids 4 diamonds. Now, if you know this convention, that is a splinter bid, saying that your partner has enough points for game and has a singleton or void in diamonds and has support for you in spades. So that's called a splinter bid. What can you bid in response? Well, even though that diamond fit, that singleton or void in diamonds is quite a good fit for your holding in diamonds, which is the ace 8-5, you are a very weak hand. You've only got 8 points there, and it's very hard for you to progress the bidding there. And with such a weak hand, you might well decide just to bid 4 spades, and maybe that will end the auction. So maybe you'll end up in 4 spades on this. And let's suppose that the opponents lead the queen of diamonds, and we're going to stop to make a plan on this hand. Now, in the hands that we're going to be looking at later on, there are situations where you've got more trumps in one hand than in the other. However, on this particular hand, you've actually got 4 trumps in each hand. And if you have time on these kinds of hands, it's often a good idea to consider it both from your own hand's point of view and from that of dummy. You've got equal trump length there. So if we look at it from, let's say, the north hand's point of view, we can sort of try and count our possible losers there, which are what? 1 spade, we're missing the ace. No hearts, we'll be able to take all those hearts presumably. We've got no diamond losers because we've got the ace there. And the only other possible losers we've got are in clubs, where the queen might lose and the 2 will lose. So we start off, if we look at it from the north hand point of view, with 2 possible losers there. But it's well worth also considering this from your own hand's point of view. And let's do that. Again, we've got 1 spade loser, no heart losers. In fact, the hearts will provide a lot of extra tricks there. And in diamonds, we have 2 diamond losers here, but maybe we can ruff those in dummy. And if we can ruff those in dummy, we don't have to lose any diamonds. Our only other losers might be in clubs. But if you count up the number of hearts you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 here. And that means that if you draw trumps and then later play out the hearts, you'll be able to discard twice on the long heart suit, and you'll be able to discard 2 clubs. And if you can do that, you perhaps won't lose any club tricks, and you'll just lose the 1 spade trick. So on this hand, it's well worth considering it from both hands' points of view and try and work out how you're going to play it. And the options that we'll talk about later are always, are you going to just draw trumps to start with, draw all the opponent's trumps, or are you going to try to ruff, do some ruffing before you draw trumps, or do something else. And here, I think I'm going to try to ruff the diamonds before I draw all the opponent's trumps. It's also well worth considering on a hand like this, as well as counting your potential losers, to count how many tricks you expect to make. So I would say, looking at it from South point of view, I've got 3 spades I'm going to make because I'm going to lose one, but I've got 5 hearts, okay, and I've got 2 aces. So that's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I've got 10 tricks I'm going to make here. And if I can make 2 more by ruffing 2 diamonds, that should be 12 tricks that I'm hoping to make. So that's the way I'm going to play this. I'm going to not draw trumps immediately, and I'm going to try to ruff both of those 2 diamonds. You also have to think about whether you have good enough trumps to do that, which I think I do. I've got the King, Queen, Jack 10. So I think I should be able to achieve that. So that's what I'm going to do on this hand. If they lead a diamond, that sort of just helps me. I'm going to win the ace of diamonds and ruff a diamond. And let's suppose that's successful. I now want to get back to the south hand in order to ruff that last diamond. Now I could try to do that with a trump perhaps, but they might get in with their ace and they might attempt to draw my trump. So they might play a second round of trumps. And then it's slightly awkward. I want to get back to the south hand still. And maybe I can do that with a heart. If I can get away with that, I can then ruff the last diamond. And there's still a trump out. So I still want to get back to my hand. The only way that could work is the Jack of Hearts there. And if that does get me back to my hand, I can now draw the opponent's last trump, and I'll cash the hearts now, discarding the clubs as I planned to all along. And that way I can make 12 tricks on this hand. And maybe you might think that's relatively straightforward. I think perhaps the way it was played wasn't quite the best way. It might have been best to ruff the first diamond with the king or the queen, because it might make that a little easier to get back to the south hand. But other than that, barring some bad distribution, your best bet for 12 tricks is indeed to ruff the 2 diamonds. That is called making south the master hand and using the trumps in the north hand for ruffing, to ruff twice. And that's something that maybe would come naturally to you, but even though the south hand is very weak, it gets the name here of the master hand because you're using the other hand to ruff with and this hand primarily to draw trumps with.
Can I ask a question, Tony?
Yes, Morris.
The 4 spade response to the 4 diamond doesn't tell north that south has got some good heart support.
No, it doesn't.
So do you think it would be more advisable to bid 4 hearts rather than 4 spades, and let north make the decision?
I mean, if I was playing this and south bid 4 hearts, I would take that to be a Q bid, because you've agreed spades as the trump suit. So if you bid another suit, it would be a Q bid. However, it can't really be a Q bid here because, well, I suppose it could be a void, because north has got the ace and king of hearts there. So it's a slightly awkward one to bid. You'd quite like to make some kind of positive sounding bid there, but there really isn't anything you can bid. I wouldn't recommend south goes into 4 no trump Blackwood, because Blackwood or Roman key card Blackwood normally works out better if it's a stronger hand going in for it. So it's kind of hard for south to know what to bid there other than 4 spades. I take a point that you'd like to bid something, and maybe you would like to show some heart support, but it's hard to do that because that should normally be a Q bid. Anyway, that was a relatively straightforward example, perhaps, where as long as you look at it from your own hand point of view, you can see the potential for 12 tricks there. Let's have a look at this one. And this was the hand that I sent out in the email over the weekend, where you open a spade, your partner bids 2 diamonds, you rebid 2 hearts, and they jump to 4 spades, and the opponents lead the ace of clubs. And my question for you in the email was, can you see a way to make 12 tricks here? So if we look at this hand from the south hand point of view, we can see we've got all the spade tricks, we've got all the heart tricks, so 5 spades, 5 hearts, and we've got the ace of diamonds. So we've got 11 tricks here, and looked at from the south hand point of view, that would seem to be it. It would seem there's no real possibility of making any more tricks. You're always going to lose a diamond, and you expect to lose a club, barring some mistake from the defense. You expect to lose those 2 tricks. And indeed, that's what would probably happen if this hand was played. You generally make 11 tricks here. But there is a way to make 12 tricks on this hand, and that's by considering it from the point of view of the north hand. And even though you've only got 3 trumps in the north hand, if you switch over and make north the master hand, use the trumps in the north hand to draw the opponent's trumps, then you have the possibility of ruffing clubs. And normally ruffing clubs here would be a strange thing to do because you're ruffing in the hand with the long trump suit. But there are a few situations, and this is one, where you can actually make more tricks if I could ruff 3 clubs in the south hand. And if you think about it, if I'm able to ruff 3 clubs in the south hand, after that, and after drawing trumps, when I play the hearts, because I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hearts there and 2 hearts there, I'll be able to run the hearts and discard 3 diamonds from the north hand and could make 12 tricks there, provided there's no bad distribution in trumps, for example. So the normal way you'd play this would be, maybe just to draw trumps and lose 2 tricks at some point. But we're going to show how it works with so-called dummy reversal, which is making dummy, the hand with fewer trumps here, the master hand. So let's suppose they start off with the ace of clubs, and suppose they play another club and you ruff that one. Well, our goal here is going to be to try to ruff 2 more clubs. We're going to try to ruff 2 more clubs in the south hand. So what we're going to do is maybe cross to dummy. I can do that with the trump, because remember, I've said I only really want to ruff 2 clubs, so I can get there with the trump, ruff a club, and I still want to get back now to the north hand, which I can do with another spade. And I'm watching the spades as they go here. I've drawn 2 rounds and everyone's followed, so there's just 1 trump out. But what I'm going to do is ruff that club, and then I just want to get back to the north hand to draw the last trump. So I'll do that with the king of hearts, draw the last trump, and then I can claim, because all the trumps have gone and I've got all the good hearts and the ace of diamonds. So it's a slightly unusual hand, but you can actually gain an extra trick here by ruffing 3 clubs in the south hand. Anyone have any comments on that?
Would it not be a slightly dangerous play in case the trumps were split 4-1?
Yeah, I mean, I think in that case, you would lose a trump. You'd be unable to draw that last trump. But I think you'd be, I don't think you'd be worse off. In other words, you'd make 11 tricks then, I think, instead of 12. I might have a look at that and see if that could be the case.
But if the clubs were not split 4-4, then they get another club as well. So you'd be worse.
You're probably okay with the clubs, because on this particular hand you're ruffing your clubs with high trumps anyway.
No, what I'm saying is, if they then get in with you, when you start playing out your hearts, they trump one, then they can play out their clubs.
Right. Play out their clubs. Okay.
If the clubs are not split 4-4, which would be unusual anyway. So if it was 5-3,
okay,
and the fourth trump was in the same hand as the 5 clubs, then they'd trump one of your hearts and then play one of their clubs. So you'd be even worse off.
Right. I mean, I don't think they can. I mean, the roughing of clubs should be all right, even if you get a bad break, wouldn't it? Because you're roughing with high trumps here.
No. What I'm saying is, you trump you rough your 3 clubs.
Yeah.
You play it the way you're doing. Then you find they've got an extra club which you can't draw, as an extra trump which they can't draw. Right. You start playing your hearts. They trump those, and then you can't trump the clubs.
Okay. All right. I'll have a look at that. You could be right there. I'm sure there might be some distribution where that could be a problem. I'm not sure about that offhand, but yes, if you I mean that is, if you like, the danger of roughing in the long hand, that you're shortening your trump length. But so perhaps with bad distribution it might not work out so well. Yes, I'll have a look at that, see if I think that's if I agree with that or not. I think I need to think about that one. There are, however, obviously, generally speaking, even though you may not agree, you get more of a your spade distribution is more likely to be 3-2 for the defense. So the odds are that will be more likely to be successful than just playing out, just taking your 11 tricks. Let's have a look at another one here. And here it's gone 1 spade, 3 spades, 4 spades. And this time the opponents lead the 2 of spades. So they decided to lead a trump against your 4 spade contract. And again, we've got to make a decision about how we want to play this hand. So you might start off by counting your tricks. I think I've got 5 spades, 3 hearts, and 1 club in terms of top tricks there. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 tricks there. And I can see a couple of possibilities on this hand. You might think about your losers from the point of view of the south hand, where you've got 4 losers here, but maybe you could rough a couple of those in dummy. Or you can also look at the club situation and see that you've got 3 club losers if you look at it from the north hand point of view, and maybe you should rough those in your hand. So I've got a poll coming up for you, which is, how are you going to play this hand? And I'm going to give you a few options. Either draw all the opponent's trumps first, or aim to rough diamonds in dummy, or aim to rough clubs in your own hand, or aim to cross rough in clubs and diamonds. So have a little think about that. And here comes the poll with those options. I'd like you to choose which option you think you're going to go for. It's the only poll this evening. So I'm going to end the poll there, and let's have a look at your opinions on that one. And it's fairly evenly divided. Some said rough clubs in your hand, some said cross rough diamonds and clubs, some said rough diamonds in dummy, and some said draw the opponent's trumps first. And we're going to look at this played a couple of different ways. The way I would start off looking at this, and is looking at it from the point of view of the hand with the long trump suit, which is your own here. And you might think about roughing those 2 diamonds in dummy. The only problem with this is that the opponents may realize that that's what you're up to and may try and draw trumps to prevent this. In fact, they've got off to perhaps a good lead for them of a spade. And let's just see what happens if we win that and if we try to play on the diamonds. And we'll just bring up the four hands and have a look at this. And if we play a diamond and West wins that, West might well decide that declarer is going to try to ruff diamonds in dummy and might well try to spoil that plan by playing another trump. And now declarer can win that, has to play another diamond in order to try to do any ruffing. But again, if West gets in, they can draw one more trump. And now declarer only has one trump left in dummy. That's all the trumps gone. And so declarer will only be able to ruff one diamond. So what declarer might do is maybe play a club, maybe ruff a club so that they can ruff a diamond on the way back. But that's the last diamond ruff that they can make. And although you can get back to your hand, you can cash your hearts. At the end, you'll be left with a diamond loser as long as East has kept their king of diamonds. So you can still make your contract. Basically, what you did on this hand was you were able to ruff one diamond, so you ended up losing three diamond tricks. Okay, you were able to ruff one, but you lost 3 diamond tricks and just made 10 tricks there. This hand can also be considered from the point of view of North, because although you have fewer trumps in the North hand, it may work out better for you to ruff the clubs in the South hand rather than trying to ruff the diamonds in the North hand. And the reason for that is obviously that you'll be able to ruff clubs right away without the opponents getting in and drawing trumps. So let's play the same hand, but this time we're going to try to ruff clubs in our hand. We'll win the first trick. Actually, we'll just bring up the 4 hands as we play this. Play a club over to the ace and play a club back, ruffing in the South hand. We now still have clubs we'd like to ruff. And the other thing to observe here is you've got pretty good trumps in both hands. So we'll hopefully be able to ruff the clubs without risk of an over-ruff there. So let's go back to my hand, play another club, which we're ruffing high here. And then we want to come back to the North hand to ruff that last club, which we'll ruff with the ace of spades. Now, all we want to do is draw the opponent's last trump. So we try to get back to our hand with the Queen of Hearts, draw that last trump, and we can take the Ace of Hearts. We're going to lose 2 diamonds here, so we can't really do anything about that. But we'll make the last trick, and we'll make one more trick than we did by trying to ruff diamonds. So if we try to ruff diamonds, remember we said we started off with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. If we started off trying to ruff diamonds, we were able to ruff 1 diamond, which comes to 10 tricks. But if instead you tried to ruff clubs, we can work out how that works. So we're going to count here 4 trumps for the trumps in the North hand, 3 hearts, that's 7, 8 tricks there, but we're going to ruff 3 clubs. So we'll get one more, we'll be able to ruff 3 times, and that's how that comes to 11 tricks here. So these hands are slightly unusual in that you can sometimes make more by considering dummy, or the hand with the fewer trumps, making that the master hand and using the hand with the long trump suit for ruffing with. Okay, so as I said at the outset, this is a slightly advanced topic, and it's not something I would recommend you do a lot, because it isn't normally a good thing to ruff in the long hand, but there are a few hands where it can be advantageous. By the way, those of you who said cross ruff diamonds and clubs, the risk of trying to ruff any diamonds basically is that you have to lose the lead, and when the opponents gain the lead in diamonds, they may try to stop your cross ruffing by playing trumps themselves. So that's something you can avoid if you just stick to ruffing 3 clubs. And if you can do that, you can make one more trick on this hand. Any other comments or questions on that?
There's another way of looking at this hand, Tony, and that
Yep.
is the north-south hands have got less clubs between them than diamonds. And therefore, the opponents will have more clubs against you than diamonds.
Okay, that's true. I mean, you also have to think about, if you're going to plan to ruff the clubs, what are you going to ruff with? And you might think, well, I can ruff 2 low and the 3rd one high. And you also have to look at the quality of your trumps and whether your trumps are high enough to draw the opponent's trumps. Here they are. He's got good trumps in the north hand as well as the south hand. So you should be able to do that as well. But yes, the problem with ruffing diamonds is the opponents may stop you if they are, depending on the opponents, they may stop you by drawing trumps. But yes, that's another point you just made. So we'll end the talk there if there are no more questions. I'll have a look at the thing that Humphrey mentioned on the other one. Apart from that, we'll end the talk there.